There's a small blinking light that an entire generation still remembers the sound of. Not a phone buzz, not a notification chime, a click, a beep, and then a voice saved just for you. Today, one object explains Gen X better than any list of traits ever could. Before texts, before voicemail to text, before read receipts, there was a machine sitting on a kitchen counter or a hallway table, quietly holding whatever people couldn't say to your face. Historians who study communication technology often point out that every generation's defining object says less about the gadget itself and more about what people needed it to hold for them. For Gen X, that object was the answering machine. You'd walk in the door after school, and the first thing you'd check, before your backpack even hit the floor, was whether that little light was blinking. It meant someone had thought of you while you were gone. In a house that was often empty until a parent got home from work, that blinking light was sometimes the closest thing to being noticed, all day. Psychologists who study attachment often note that small, reliable signals of "someone thought of me" matter more to a child's sense of security than grand gestures do. Gen X didn't have a phone in their pocket buzzing constantly with proof they mattered. They had one blinking light, and they learned to treasure it. And then there's the message people never deleted. A parent's voice, an old friend calling just to say something small. Sometimes, after someone passed away, that saved message became the last recording of their voice a family had. Researchers who study memory and grief often observe that voice carries emotional weight text never fully replaces. The pauses, the specific way someone said your name, things a screen simply can't hold. Gen X grew up in the exact window where that kind of voice memory was common and ordinary, right before it quietly became rare. That's not nostalgia for a machine. That's grief for a kind of proof that doesn't really exist anymore. There's another use nobody talks about as fondly: standing right next to the machine, listening to who was calling, and deciding, in real time, whether today was a day you had the energy to pick up. That was Gen X's first real taste of control over their own availability, decades before "Do Not Disturb" was a setting on a phone. Behavioral scientists sometimes describe this as an early form of boundary setting, learning, quietly, without anyone teaching it directly, that you were allowed to choose when you were reachable. It's a small thing, but it's also exactly the instinct so many Gen X adults still carry today. The quiet, practiced habit of deciding what they're available for before anyone else gets to decide it for them. At some point, the machine just stopped being used. Voicemail moved into the phone itself. Then texting made even voicemail feel like an imposition. Nobody had a ceremony for it. It just quietly stopped mattering. One day it was unplugged, and it never came back on. Historians of technology note that the objects which disappear quietly, without ceremony, are often the ones that shaped us the most, because we were too busy living through the change to notice we should have said goodbye to them. So maybe that's the real reason the sound of that beep still catches Gen X off guard when they hear it in an old movie. It wasn't just a machine. It was proof someone thought of you, a voice worth keeping, and the first quiet lesson in choosing your own peace. If this made you think of a message you wish you'd saved, that's what this channel is for. Subscribe if you want more of these.